some drawings to go over. This is our feedback and Q&A session. So members submit drawings from our previous workshop, which is on Saturdays. We go over some of those, and I'm going to show you a few other things, and then we're going to call it a night. So we do this every Wednesday, so thanks for joining in. Jason on Instagram says, "Gestures is life." I agree. All right, so we're going to be looking at Corey's work. There we go. All right, Corey, really nice stuff this week. We had a really fun theme, and I'll show you our model. In July, our themes for our workshop, we do costume themes, are going to be just kind of summer fun. So I'm just going to drag this up here real quick so you can see what Ralph looks like. Ralph is our crazy uncle on the 4th of July. So that's what the basis of our poses was this week. And he did a fantastic job. Ralph's been with us for a long, long time. And we've been doing this workshop every Saturday for 5 years. So almost 5 years. Be a big celebration this October. And Jason's spouting off the good vibes in Instagram, saying how important gesture drawing is, especially for animators. I agree. I came from the illustration world before I became an animator at Disney. I would say this practice is also important for any storytelling. Illustrators, story people, yeah, that one pose, really, now I'm in Imagineering, and this totally translates over into animatronics, coming up with gags and things like that. And it's been so valuable to do this every week. So anyway, let's get into Corey's work. Corey, nice stuff this week. There's some really strong ones. Here we go. I thought these were pretty good here, man. Really nice. I particularly like this guy in the bottom. He got really loose there. Ralph had this kind of like a baggy shirt, and it was really nice. We had some really funny moments with the crazy uncle theme. Corey's a hard worker. Corey, if I'm not mistaken, you work in story. Yeah, we have story artists, we have professors that join us and who are very accomplished artists, and they get what Jason was saying there in Instagram, just the importance of gesture drawing, figure drawing, people and animals, by the way. We don't have any wild animals in here, but let's see here. So I'm looking at the one where he's reaching in the cooler. Last couple of weeks we've been talking about really incorporating the whole body into the pose to help lead the eye. A really strong pose can be really great for composition. My custom puppet says, are you poring over Mark Davis drawings at Imagineering? Always. Total hero. Corey, I'm looking at this drawing, and he's reaching into a cooler. Looking at that line of action, I know Ralph it was kind of a relaxed kind of pose with that a little bit, but I feel like with a drawing we could really kind of push it a little bit. It's like really digging for a cold one, or whatever you want to think of. And I really love to approach a drawing with that story in mind, right? And because it helps me as the artist to really come up with some ideas and try different poses and things like that. But when I think about him reaching inside, I really do want to use that whole body. So just following this line around to the arm here and really simplifying your statement, you know what I mean? And then you can get into all the details. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that kind of stuff tonight with some of my drawings. But these very beginning stages, this early moments here really matter because it's our decision-making time. And obviously you got his fun hair in there, which was so funny. And with that backwards hat, it just had this really fun shape. And I just really thought, Corey, you really had a really big improvement this week, which was really fun. Kind of choosing here to give him something to look at, looking down on this cooler. Probably could have tucked his head a little bit more, actually. So it's really important just to really think about that action and really think about who is doing that action. In this case, by this time of the class, it was we're all kind of getting dialed in to the who this crazy uncle character was. It's like you might really be reaching in there because, with some gusto or something like that. So, and then his leg is back here, cooler's in front, like you have it. Very cool. So that's all. Just trying to find that that guiding thing in a pose sometimes to really help get that nice lean in there. So that's about it. What else can we pick on? I really like this one here. I think this is really nice what you did to this guy, the problem solving. This guy. I dig it. You cleared this path really nicely. The only thing I might do a little differently, I'm just going to nudge what you did because I like what you did, but I think we could push that a little bit more. This lean. So what's happening here, folks, is this character is lighting a firework, which it's pretty clear. The staging's nice. something with this area here, this negative space here, push that a little bit more. And this is just for the sake of readability, like really considering how to make it very clear to the audience in an instant what's going on, right? That's what we're after. This is all about communication. Like in this case, I think you could really just kind of do whatever with the firework. You could add that later. So yeah, I think I'm just opening this up. I'm just wanting to open that up a little bit more. What you did with the head is fine, and this other arm, I think Ralph's is going straight back, but we can maybe cheat it a little bit just to get like this idea of it coming down that way to our rocket, which is probably off screen right now for Instagram. But looking at negative spaces, good thing. Yeah, other than that, Corey, I think there's something about even this guy here. There's some nice movement in this top guy here, but I want you to consider, because I think you do this, it's looking like you do a light kind of line of action underneath, which is good. That's a good thing. But I feel like we can push that a little bit more with your stuff. And then I think you're kind of dancing around the edges a little bit. But I wonder if there's a way that we can, I don't know, I don't want to change your drawing style. But I feel like seeing our drawings, and this is me dancing around a little bit, I think, with kind of talking out loud or verbally processing, as people say, and finding that movement. And I want to do that. I don't want to just draw spaghetti people for that, for the sake of that, but I also want to draw form, right? And really considering that, and not worry about contour edges, but letting my lines react to the form underneath as I build. Tom Gately, you should look him up. He is a phenomenal artist. I worked with him a little bit on Brother Bear, on his character Tanana. He went on to Pixar, and he draws. He's like one of my all-time heroes of gesture drawing. He really uses anatomy in his gesture, like his knowledge of anatomy comes out, and he's letting the anatomy, and he even characters anatomy of a subject and gives all this really fun character to his drawings. But he pushes that, he plays with that, and he uses that. He has all this knowledge of anatomy, and it really inspired me to be bold and use that, not as an afterthought, but as part of the rhythm and the process of laying down lines and ideas. And Dave Pimentel's another one. He does some of that too. All that to say, there's some really nice stuff going on, but I think we're ready to push it a little further. More on that later, I guess, as we go on. But thank you so much, Corey, for submitting your stuff. Really appreciate it. And yeah, it was really fun. All right, so we're going to move on a little bit tonight and do some different things. Questions in the Instagram chat. Matt asked, what's a typical day in Imagineering look like? Coming up with fun things, I guess. One thing that's really fun, and I was thinking about this earlier, and just how, and even in this world of AI coming in, right, to all of our lives here, right, in the art world, drawing and having fundamentals hasn't changed in my mind at all. It's opened up so many more doors and avenues, constantly changing digital tools. It's like if you have a foundation of traditional drawing, it's going to help you and aid you so much, as things always are going to twist and turn. And I've been in this business for a long time, 30 years or something like that. Having a strong foundation and putting in that work and that time and hopefully loving it because you're an artist is really, really awesome. But a typical day, doing a lot of drawing, a lot of planning. I do a lot of thumbnailing. It really helps to have a foundation of traditional stuff, knowing how to communicate, whether it's characters and gags or a layout, a physical space, composition, staging, like all of those things come into play. So as an artist, I don't have a lot of meetings over there, but when I have a meeting, you better be ready because you got to drop that bomb, in your meeting. So that's kind of a typical day. A lot of drawing, a couple meetings. Hopefully they like your stuff. Yeah, no pressure. Anyway, great question. Well, we're gonna draw. So, all right. So these are some of my quick ones from the workshop. I like to go through, and I thought I'd talk about this a little bit tonight. You know, I'm an artist, and I post my stuff, and sometimes I like to go back over and tighten things up a little bit, and sometimes I like to leave it alone. But in this case, it looks like he's a drummer in a band or something. He had a big cigarette in his mouth, which I didn't draw. I didn't really worry about details. I was just trying to find rhythm and movement. He was in this pose like, oh, I'm ready for anything, Uncle Bob or whatever. But I didn't bother to draw like shoelaces and things like that. He had like combat boots on. So I might go back in and then do details. It's like, but if the pose is something that just kind of stinks, you know, if it's too stiff, then I kind of have to say goodbye to that drawing because all the details in the world aren't gonna save it. Or it might. You might have a really cool bicep, you know, or something. You could do an okay drawing and, you know, whatever, move on to the next thing. Another thing he had was like a bunch of plates. He had like several plates in his hand. He was kind of balancing. I normally like to do these in the morning, like before work or something, as like a warm-up for myself. But I thought, hey, let's just do a couple of these tonight. So yeah, I've already just put in a few things. His facial shape is kind of, but you know. And then this was a grill, so it's like, oh, I'm gonna add that grill in. Typical Weber grill, charcoal grill. And he's holding his tongs here, or spatula, I should say. You could add props and fun stuff, but it's like you want to build your stuff on a foundation, and that's really what our class is about. Getting to the heart of some issues. You know, getting to the story. Every great drawing, you know, starts with a great story, right? You know, finding the character. It starts with an attitude, conveying an emotion. That could be your story, conveying an action. So here, this one, let's see, he is opening a can. So I might add some hairy arms, you know, like you could do stuff. But if I don't have the action of opening up a can working, like if that's not going to read, which is it's kind of borderline not reading, to be honest with you. But it's like, well, if you can't get your story to read, might as well move on. Yeah, and Ralph, our model, he's a really in shape guy, right? And but you know, you start going along, you're like, you know what? I want to draw my crazy uncle with a beer belly, you know. And you could add that. You can change things. You don't have to copy the model. There, he's kicking back a cold one, I guess. Just opened his beer. And so the beer is fuller, right? So the tipping of the beer won't be as dramatic as if it was like the last drops, right? Maybe your uncle has some sideburns. I got some rhythm and stuff going on here, but I might add some more details. And you can go crazy, you know, you can have fun with props and do your thing. But does the pose put like a little American flag here? All right, moving on. This one, he's tying the apron on, so I was trying to give that little bend here. He's got his sunglasses on. He's got his crazy hair. So like this one, I'm like, I don't want to ruin it with details either. Again, this is just gesture drawing. This isn't taking this to a finished character drawing tonight, although that is a really fun thing to do. This this one, and he was putting the apron on really tight, you know, and it's kind of a funny shape. So I was reading a chat here. I got a question here from Sarah. Hey, Sarah. She says, I have a question about how you go about poses like this one. I think I missed what you were going to say. Where the head is tilted back. I struggle getting the shape and balance of the head right in these kinds of poses. Okay. Yeah, sometimes, Sarah, I straighten things out a little bit. There he is. So I kind of tracked it backwards a little bit. When I think about that, there's like this kind of wedge shape. Well, you have your jawline here, and then you have what's underneath the jaw. I'm going to look at mine right here, like this part underneath the jaw that connects to the throat. And it's also good to consider, we've done an anatomy lesson a while back about the neck and the shoulder, like these muscles that wrap around here and meet in the clavicle. And that helps provide some shape. But really considering the planes, and I think a lot of it, Sarah, is practicing that angle a lot. It's like really considering if it's tilted back in space, you know, if I'm gonna I guess do a side view of a head, and really thinking about this plane and this plane, right? Jink, jink. And if I'm thinking about tilting it back in space, and then you have your jaw, I'm kind of making this up a little bit, 3/4 style. And one thing I consider also is that eye line, and really tracking that. So if I'm thinking of the, you know, the head is a sphere kind of a thing, there's your middle. I really consider that eye line. Where is that going to land? And obviously your nose is going to sit on top of that, right? Well, obviously everybody has different noses and all that, but this is just for the sake of whatever. And then you have your eye socket. That's also like this whole area. That's a little bit big. That's tilting back in space. And so your eyebrows might be here. Again, I'm just picking an angle, kind of based on that drawing back there that we did. But and then the lips are also going to be wrapping around that form, that tilting of the back. You're going to track that, right? Just going to draw some extra lines here. And then obviously, you know, the chin, like at the mouth, goes in here. See, you might have this part here that goes in, and then the chin comes out, depending on the facial features of the person. And you can track all these different planes. That's what I'm trying to say. And you have your throat here. Again, these muscles kind of connect down here a little bit, wrap around the throat. And then your ears obviously are going to be like what is that? Your top of the bottom of the nose, and I don't know, depending on the person, but around your eye line there. And again, you know, I'm going to follow the mouth around here to where the jawline is. And then you have your ear base is going to be down here because I've followed this around. Oh, there it is, right? Kind of not a great ear shape. And then, you know, everything else is kind of disappearing now because of the tilt of the head back, right? And so Ralph had a hat on, you know, so, but a person might have, okay, I'll try to draw the hat, I guess. But the hair, you might have some forehead hair like sticking out, depending. But all of that's going to disappear back here now, you know. He had the tufts of hair sticking out. So all that to say, really thinking about that three-dimensional form, and if you have to think of it as a circle, like a Mickey, you know, track that eye line. That's what I usually do. I really consider where the eye line is and the angle of the head, like the tilt of the head, I mean. Where is that playing out? And then I can go from there. And this jaw, and as a drawing, I kind of leave that loose a little bit. I think when you do hard lines for every single thing, kind of kills it. But yeah, there you have it. Yeah, I hear what you're saying, because you said you don't like to draw the head in that position that much, and I don't either. I don't either. It's not appealing. But if you can get it right, it could be make some really nice dynamic drawing, you know. And maybe even look up artists that you like old masters or who have pulled off that angle really well, and see how they handle details and what they leave in and what they take out. Okay. Yeah, I think the trick, if you're going to put details on your gestures and where do you go from here, you don't want to kill it, so keep it simple. Not that gestures have to be your end piece of art, although I like to see it that way. But because I'm just such a fan of the rough drawings and stuff like that. This one's okay. It got a little weird and stiff on me. So yeah, I might go in and put some things I want to get in there. That leg got a little weird, so I'm just going to fix the proportions, some hairy armpits. And when you're going through with anatomy in your gesture, and in order not to stiffen up your drawing, try to find that rhythm. Going from tricep, right? Coming over into your forearm, which can follow that rhythm into the hand, the palm or the heel of your hand here. And so all that to say, like, try not to get too stiff, but really consider how things flow together, okay, in your drawing. But yeah, that's all. All right, go to bed. Go get your dinner. Yeah, I hope you guys can join us this weekend for some all-in gesture fun. We're going to have a continuation of our summer themes, and this weekend we're going to be doing a theme park superfan. Other than that, we'll see you next Wednesday for some more feedback and Q&A. Thanks for great questions tonight. I appreciate that. We'll see you on the interwebs.